Hey there, and welcome back to the channel. What's in your toolkit? That's a pretty common question for just about any job out there. And I find it to be a great question, especially if you're a beginner. Finding out what the professionals and others who have been doing something in a profession for a long time use can be a really big help for you, especially in web design and web development. And as a web developer and web designer, I use a lot of different tools. From the obvious local development environment to, code editors, to different software, to hardware. There's a lot that I use. And to be honest, it wasn't really until I sat down to think about this video that I realized just how many tools I used for my job. So today we're going to go through the tools that I use as a web developer and designer, and maybe you'll find something new that works for you. But before we get started, if you want to see more videos on WordPress development, web design, those sorts of things, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications. Now, let's get started. So first off, let's talk about the local development environment, because this is really important for web developers. For me, I basically exclusively use WordPress, so my main focus is a WordPress development environment, and for that I use local WP. Originally, I had been using desktop server really since I had become a web developer in like 2014, but unfortunately they basically went out of business in 2022. So I had to switch, and local WP has just been flat out amazing for me. It's really easy for me to spin up a new website on my local machine. I can switch between PHP versions. I can change server types, just all these really cool tools, and it's all really easy to use with a great interface. And if you're building a website for a client or maybe yourself and you have a WP Engine account, you can basically take your development environment and push it right to WP Engine. I mean, really, I would love to learn Docker more, especially as I try to advance my skills more. But for right now, with what I'm doing with WordPress, local WP is perfectly fine. Now we move on to code editors. And I know that some developers probably are very adamant about you have to use this code editor or that code editor. And I'm not really one of those people. And actually, in fact, I use two code editors, so My primary code editor is Visual Studio Code. This is just a great tool that I've used. I used PHP Storm previously, and it worked for a while, but it was just kind of a lot. It was a yearly subscription, and then I sort of found out through the grapevine about VS Code, and really haven't looked back. It's got all the functionality I need. There are tons and tons of extensions you can use. I don't use very much. I run a fairly basic setup. I just use what I need for like PHP code sniffing, linting, those sorts of things. But I mean, there are a ton of extensions. You can really trick out sort of your setup with VS Code. And actually, to be honest, if you have been using VS Code and you have an extension that you just love, I would love to hear about it because I'm always looking for something new to try. And then finally, I also use Sublime Text. This is used mainly in a very specific situation, and that's when I'm using FileZilla, which is an FTP client that I use, to sort of edit files. I don't want to have to deal with VS Code, so I use like sort of the view and edit option, and I just open it up with Sublime Text because it's quicker, it's easier, a little less work on the computer, and then I just make the changes, send it up via FTP, and go about my business. It's like the one thing that it really does better for me than VS Code. Next, let's move a little bit on to hardware and talk about the computers that I use for web development and web design. My primary machine, which is sitting right here, right underneath the camera, is a 24-inch 2021 iMac. It's got the M1 chip. Personally, it's a great sort of home base for me. I have it right here on my desk. It's my primary machine where I do basically a lot of my development, a lot of the design, a lot of video editing, or almost all of the video editing goes on this. Since it is plugged in, I've got an Ethernet cord over here. Just really, it's a great tool. It's got the M1 chip. I know the M1 chip isn't the fastest now, but it was at the time. And it just works for me. It's great. Surprisingly, it was cheaper than my MacBook Pro. So really, if I'm in my apartment and I'm working on something, I'm generally almost always on my iMac. Next up, we have this wonderful 2019 MacBook Pro. This is what I use a lot, especially when I'm on the road or I'm away from my apartment, or if I'm sitting over here on the couch, just working on something because I need to get away from the desk or something. Really, it's great. Probably would want to upgrade it to one with one of the M chips, but it works. And it's got all these really cool stickers, so, it's fun. And then finally, we have this iPad Pro. This is my primary writing device. I like to sort of separate out sort of the development, design, and video editing onto like, the main machines, the main things that can do that. And then using something like this, the iPad, for a writing device is great because I found it to be really less distracting writing on the iPad, and it's great for travel, on airplanes, on long road trips. I can knock out almost 5,000 words in about 5 hours on a road trip recently. So it's just a really great tool. I also kind of have it sitting over here on my desk, running usually some sort of live stream. One of the virtual Railfan live streams are always great for me, just because it's constant background noise and I don't have to like worry about, oh shoot, it was 2 hours and that YouTube video is done, I need to change over to something else. It's always just there. Okay, so we've got through like the major players. Now I'm just going to run through some other tools that I use for different things. Notion is where I do a lot of my content marketing planning. I have Kanban boards for each blog, channel, and newsletter where I move content items between. And then in each item, I will put in a basic outline and take notes on points I want to hit. It's made writing a whole lot quicker and easier for me. There are paid plans, but I'm using the free version and it just works for me fine. Screen Studio is one of the newer tools in my tool belt. I'm doing a lot more stuff related to videos, particularly with web development tutorials, as you know from this channel. And Screen Studios makes it really easy to capture what I'm doing on the screen and packaging it nicely into a cool video. I can customize the background for the video, zoom in when I'm typing something so people can see what I'm doing, and more. Really, if you're looking to record tutorials on your screen, it's the best tool out there to use. OmniFocus is the task manager that I use. Previously, I used Wunderlist, which then became Microsoft Tasks. But OmniFocus is so much better. I can quickly organize my tasks into different folders and projects, and more importantly, I can create repeating tasks that happen on various schedules, like setting tasks for paying sales tax each quarter, getting a haircut every other month, and so much more. Really, I'm not sure how I functioned before using it. For time tracking, I use a combination of tools. The first is Toggl, which provides the real meat and bones of time tracking. You can set up a bunch of different timers and tags for those timers and organize them in a way that works for you. Timery comes in and adds a much better user interface for the whole thing, especially on Mac OS and iOS. Timery allows me to easily start timers on my Macs, iPad, and iPhone, and I've found that it's easier to edit timed entries if I mess something up with starting or stopping a timer. If you want to track time, these are the two tools that you need. I know it might be a bit sacrilegious to put both Slack and Discord side by side, but I do use both of these. Discord is more the fun place, being in different servers, while Slack is more for work and away, being in the post status Slack, WP Campus, and WordPress Slack instances. And I enjoy both services. Personally, I don't really have a preference between the two. I'll be honest that I don't do a whole lot of photo editing, but if I need to edit an image so that it's the right aspect ratio for the featured image for a blog post, Photoshop is what I use. If I'm editing photos I've taken on my camera, I will use Lightroom first for better editing and converting them from RAW to JPEG. Next up is Adobe Premiere Pro. I made a recent change for what I use to edit videos. For the longest time, I was using Final Cut Pro since it was relatively easy to use, and it's what I used as a journalism major in college. But I've since moved on to Premiere Pro since it gives me more options and more control over my editing. I'm still not a video editing wizard. My brother is the one in the family that can do that, but I'm getting better with each video, as you're hopefully seeing. Finally, we have Figma, which is what I'm using to design websites and WordPress themes. I had to use Sketch for the longest time, but a few months into 2023, I made the decision to jump to Figma, and I really haven't looked back. I love how easy the auto layout tools make designing various sections, as well as the components feature where I can make one change here and it changes every other instance in the document. Plus, the design kit tool from Rafael Tomel is freaking awesome, and it made designing the Crosswinds framework themes a whole lot easier. So those are the tools that I use for web development and web design. I'm curious though if you have any questions about them. And also, the bigger question is, what tools do you use for your web development and web design? As I said, I'm always interested in new tools and new things, and I'm curious to see what you have to say. And maybe you have something that's better than what I'm using. Be sure to leave all of them down in the comment section below. To see more videos like this on web development, web design, WordPress development, WordPress blocks, WordPress themes, WordPress plugins, all of that, be sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications. But that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.